cold open. Picture a frozen road in Russia. Snow burying the bodies of an army that just months ago was the most powerful on earth. Men are burning their own muskets just to stay warm. This broken army belongs to one man, a man who ruled almost all of Europe. And out here in the cold, his empire is beginning to die with him. But to understand how he fell this far, you have to go back to a small island where nobody expected him to matter at all. His name is Napoleon Bonaparte. In barely 20 years, he climbs from a mocked, penniless outsider to Emperor of the French, and makes the oldest kings in Europe afraid to sleep, and then he loses it all. Twice. This is how. The outsider. You're born on Corsica, a rocky Mediterranean island that became French only months before you arrived. So, to the French, you're not really one of them. You speak with the wrong accent. You carry the wrong name. At a military school on the mainland, the other boys are sons of nobles. They laugh at the poor Corsican who doesn't fit in. So, while they waste their time, you disappear into books, mathematics, maps, and the cold, beautiful logic of artillery, how to put a single cannonball exactly where it ends a battle. You don't make friends. You make yourself dangerous, and quietly, you decide one thing. You were never born to be ordinary. The spark. Then your whole country catches fire. A revolution tears down the king, drowns France in blood, and surrounds it with enemies who want the old world back. For most people, it's terror. For an ambitious young officer with nothing to lose, it's a door swinging open. At a besieged southern port, the older commanders are stuck. So you take charge of the guns, and you crack open a position everyone called impossible. The reward is staggering. You're made a general at just 24. Soon after, an armed mob marches on the new government in Paris. The politicians panic. You don't. You turn the cannons on the street and scatter them in minutes. The men in power notice this strange outsider. He doesn't make speeches. He wins. The rise. So they hand you a problem they expect you to fail with. A ragged, starving, unpaid army and a hopeless front in Italy. Instead, you move faster than anyone believes an army can move. You beat larger forces one by one. You send victory and treasure flooding back to Paris, and your name explodes across France. Hungry for more, you chase glory all the way to Egypt. But that campaign turns into a trap. So you do something cold and brilliant. You abandon it, and you sail home before the bad news can catch you. France is exhausted by weak, squabbling leaders, so you offer the country something simpler: yourself. With soldiers at your back, you seize power in a single bold stroke. The outsider now rules the nation that once laughed at his accent. The crown, but ruling isn't enough. You want it permanent. So in a vast ceremony with the Pope himself standing right there, you lift the crown and you place it on your own head. Emperor. Not by blood, not by birth, by sheer will. The boy they mocked is now the most powerful man in Europe, and he is only getting started. The Empire. Every old monarchy on the continent looks at you and sees a threat they must destroy. Again and again they form alliances against you. Austria, Russia, Prussia, and behind them all Britain. And again, you beat them. Your masterpiece comes on a cold morning against a larger army. You bait them into attacking exactly where you want. You spring the trap at the perfect moment, and you shatter them in a single day. It becomes one of the most studied victories in history. Now you sit at the summit of Europe. You hand thrones to your brothers and sisters. Your laws spread from Spain to Poland for one shining moment. Yea, it looks like nothing alive can stop you, but there's a problem with ruling almost everything. You can't stop the mistake. First, a long, ugly war in Spain. Year after year, it bleeds your armies in ambushes and sieges, a wound that simply will not close. And then you make the decision that ends you. To force one stubborn rival to obey, you march into Russia with one of the largest armies ever assembled. But the Russians refuse to give you the battle you want. They retreat, and they burn everything behind them. Crops, villages, food. They leave you alone in a vast, empty, freezing country with no enemy to beat and nothing to eat. You reach their great city. It's deserted, and then it burns. So you turn back. And now the real enemy arrives. Winter. It does what no army could. Your grand army, hundreds of thousands of men, is destroyed on the road home. Only a fraction survive. The fall. Your enemies smell blood. And this time, they all unite at once. They beat you. They strip you of your throne. And they exile you to a tiny island off the coast of Italy. It should be the end of the story. The return, it isn't. You escape, you land in France, and the soldiers sent to arrest you lower their weapons and fall in behind you instead. Within days, you're emperor again. The world calls it the 100 Days, but your final battle is already waiting. On a muddy field against the combined armies of Europe, the rain pours and your luck finally runs out. This time, there is no comeback. They send you to a lonely rock in the middle of the ocean. And there you stay, staring at the sea, replaying every move you ever made. The legacy. He dies far from the throne he built, but his shadow never leaves Europe. The legal code he created still sits beneath the laws of dozens of countries today. Generals still study his battles move by move, and his life became the measure for ambition itself, proof of how high one person can rise from nothing and how violently they can fall when ambition forgets there's a limit. A penniless outsider who made the world's kings afraid and then lost everything to his own hunger. Remembered forever as both a genius and a warning. He was flesh and blood, ambition and ruin, drawn from history.